I dream of a place where I can simply raise my native son to be human, to love music, to make art, to fall in love, to make things he loves with his hands. I want to tell our daughters that I know the source of our internal bruises. I know that a brown girl's pain passes down quietly through our families like hand-me-down heels that don't fit into your girlhood. Okay, you go.
Alright.
It's a battle. I'm just kidding. Go.
King. I know my mom and dad named me that for a reason, but I just don't know why.
While I'm trying to find out, my brain hurts from the pressure.
On a throne and having a butler doesn't mean you're a king. If you're a king, you help people. You pick people up when they're falling down. And that's the king I want to be.
You were how old when you were that? About?
9?
9. I'm Jessica Kiermore, and I'm a poet. I'm an interdisciplinary artist. I'm a curator and a musician.
My name is King Moore. I'm 14 years old, and I go to Detroit School of the Arts.
So I write poems, and I make music with poetry, and I write books. I'm an author, and I'm an independent book publisher.
I got into poetry when I was around 7 years old. That's when my mom noticed that I was writing, and that's where it started.
Poetry kind of came to me. I was writing, much like my son, when I was around 7 or 8. Not poems, though. I was writing short stories. I was a curious child, so I wanted to know about everybody. I wanted to write about my neighbors. And poetry didn't really come into my life in a real way until around 10th or 11th grade in high school, when my drama coach, Susan Story, brought Ntozake Shange, who's a very famous poet and playwright, and ended up being one of my mentors in real life, into our Black Box Theater. She does a play called For Colored Girls, and I just had never heard poems like that. My mother was an avid reader, and so she gave me books all the time. And so she gave me Alice Walker, Lorraine Hansberry's book, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. So I would come home from school, and I would have books waiting on me. So my mother knew that I'm a speed reader. I read really fast, especially when I was younger. I could read books just really fast, and my mother's the same way. And she read a lot of memoir and historical, not a lot of fiction books in my house. And so I think I fell in love with history and politics and people's stories, and that helped fuel me becoming.
What is poetry to you?
It's the way that I see the world. It's the way that I pay my mortgage. It's the way that I feed my family. It's freedom.
Poetry can be a way to escape, or just a way to write how you feel.
You know, you take this thing called language that's pushed on you, and you twist and turn it and transform it into something that can be really beautiful. And yeah, I think it's like poetry is freedom, you know, and it's truth, and it's inspirational. Like, it really is, and it's a healing mechanism. Poetry heals people. Poems have healed me. Other people's poems have helped me get through hard moments, and yeah, we need poets, man, especially now with everything that's happening in the world. I couldn't imagine not having poems. I think I can explain myself better emotionally through poetry than I can just in a regular conversation.
What inspires you, and what is the process for coming up with poems?
Everything inspires me. I'm really moved and inspired by my community and my people, our story, our resilience.
I don't have a process. I kind of just write how I feel down, or a subject that I want to talk about.
But I write stories about strangers. A conversation can inspire me. But I'm also an artist that doesn't step away from politics. So if something's happening in the world, so I've written my new book, We Want Our Bodies Back. This book is for Sandra Bland. So this book deals with police brutality. It deals with black women's bodies being subjugated. It deals with lots of things that happen to girls and women, and so, you know, I take on hard subject matters that other writers may not, you know, but I write fun poems too. But my work has purpose behind it, so I don't just make art for art's sake. I have other things I do for art's sake. I do collage on canvas. I play with things like that just for fun. But my poems, I take my poetry pretty serious, and I use it as a mechanism to be a part of the movement for change in this country. And I think that's what artists are supposed to do.
It makes me feel calm and like soothed.
When I just write a poem, I feel good. I feel good when I've written a poem that I feel good about. Sometimes I write a poem and I'm sad, depending on the poem. But when I've finished a poem and I know I've written a good poem, I'm very happy. I haven't written one in a while. I've been writing other things. I've been writing film scripts and writing songs as of recent. But I got a couple books I gotta finish. And so I feel good when I get to the finish line. And when I know, okay, this is a goodie. I know that I call a couple of my poetry comrades and I read it to them. I'm like, what you think? He's like, that's a good one. So, but when I'm not writing, I'm usually not happy. I have to write to be happy. It's balance. Like some people have to do yoga or go for a run. I need some of those things too, but I have to write something, whether it's just journaling or working on a song or something creative has to be happening for me to feel like myself.
Have you ever made a poem that you didn't like?
Yeah, a lot of poems. I write a lot of poems that I don't like.
I've never made a poem that I didn't like.
They never see them, but no one ever sees them.
I just have poems that I didn't release because I didn't think they were good enough.
They're in my journals. I have literally hundreds of journals from the 90s till now that are filled with poems. It's funny though, like I'll go back to them now though, and I'll see a line or two. I'm like, those are good lines. I was just being hard on myself. So none of it's bad. It's just everything isn't for a book. Everything isn't meant to become a song. So yeah, there's lots of poems that I've written. I'm like, it's alright, And people usually like my work more than I do. To be honest, I'm probably my hardest critic.
How many poems have you made, and which one is your favorite?
I've written thousands of poems. I don't know. I have no idea how many. I have so many books full of poems. I've been writing poetry since I was in high school, and I'm pretty grown up now.
I think my favorite poem is probably Aliens, because it's where I talk about a heavy subject for the first time, and I was young still.
Easily some thousands of poems, and I've written poems inside of books and like poems that I never see I just write them for myself, and I don't share them with everybody. I have favorite poems from different time periods, so I don't have like one favorite poem, because you're always growing as a writer. And so my poems that I wrote, like in my first book, The Words Don't Fit in My Mouth, my favorite poem in this book is like Black Statue of Liberty. That's the one I did on the Apollo. But it's not my favorite poem anymore. It's other people's favorite poems, right? Because they hold on to that one poem, and they still love this poem that I wrote when I was like 19 or 20 years old. And that's fine. But, they're all different. Alphabet versus the Ghetto. My favorite poem out of this book is probably Walking Up 158th Street. And I actually turned it into a song on my album Black Tea.
Twin boys, Mexican, Latino, Indian, African, any child in America wearing Yankees jackets, playing tag, double murder, child stealers. Watch them running without worry, laughing with the sunset.
So, it depends. And then We Want Our Bodies Back because it's my current book, and it's for Sandra Bland. And but it's I don't know. It's one of my favorite books of this book, but it's not. I like other ones. I have love poems in this book. Once I've written them, though, I'm over them, and I'm always moving on to the next one.
Have you ever gotten emotional over another artist's poem?
Yes, absolutely.
I've never gotten emotional over another artist's poem, but I've definitely heard some emotional poems before.
Yes. Nikki Feeney is one of my favorite contemporary poets. She was reading from her book. It was years ago at Brooklyn Moon Cafe. I was just in my 20s, and I saw her read from her book, Rice, and I cried. And I just cried. Asha Bandeli, who I published, actually, I published her book. The Subtle Art of Breathing. She's amazing. She made me cry. Ursula Rucker has made me cry. Sonia Sanchez has made me cry. And Dazaki's made me cry. Poets who are good make me cry. So, yeah, a lot of poets have made me cry. I've cried reading poems. Audre Lorde, Mary Baraka. I open up a book that's so good, and I have to just put the book down. Like the poem is so good, I'm just like, I'm going to throw it across the room, So, yes, and absolutely.
Miss Moore, which one of King's poems is your favorite?
Like Ali is my favorite poem of King's. He wrote that, it's a newer poem. It's not in his first book, and he wrote about his experience of, he dealt with some bullying in school, and so he wrote a poem about Muhammad Ali and the strength of Muhammad Ali and how he had to deal with like real bullies from the government to all kinds of things in real life, and he attributed that to his struggle with and having to fight against bullying in school. And so I love like Ali, and he's read that in some really amazing spaces too, right? Yeah.
King, which one of your mom's poems is your favorite?
I don't know the name of it, but
Yeah.
I've always known it from like King Don't Touch the Cookies.
DHS poem number 7.
Yeah, I like that probably the best. Or the one where you talk about like a homeless man and giving him the pizza that we couldn't find.
That's Where Are the People.
Yeah.
You like both of those? He's in both of those, by the way, so he's a little biased. But DHS poem number 7 is one of my favorite poems too. It's in my book, God Is Not an American. It's a real personal piece and about some things I was going through when I first came home when he was just a baby. And then Where Are the People is we got a pizza from a local pizza spot in the Cass Corridor, and they had pepperoni on it, and we don't eat pepperoni, so we tried to find someone to give the pizza to, and we couldn't find anyone. I was like, remember we drove up and down Cass trying to find someone to give a pizza to? We couldn't believe it, because maybe just 5 years ago, we could have found people to give food to in that neighborhood. And so it was hurtful when I came home and I wrote the poem, Where Are the People? Because I was like, well, where are the people that we used to kind of take care of in this neighborhood? And that made the neighborhood interesting, you know, full of characters and different people. And I think that's what makes the neighborhood great. And so I made a film out of it, actually, called Where Are the People, that's out right now. And it's right where Detroit School of the Arts is located. So it's something good for all folks to watch at DSA. And yeah, those are good poems. I thought, what about When You're a Woman, When You're brown, When You're brave, When You Walk Over Glass Like Water? You know it by heart though, because you do it with me, right? What's the next line? No, your eyes are, when you feel off your skin for the very first time. Fear is never in style. Do you know it? In the Mecca of the blue. Do it. Fear never is in the gut of the new. You want poems, and you want poems. I just want love.
What do you hope your art inspires?
People to make more art and to see the power of art. And sometimes I'm just trying to tell a person's story, so I just hope that they connect to it and feel moved in any kind of way. I don't have an expectation of the audience, except to hopefully they feel good, or maybe they feel uncomfortable, but they feel something.
I probably want my art to like help other people start doing that, like just so that maybe another person will hear my poetry and think, I'll try that out, and they can use poetry as like an outlet too.
But you feel the same way about music?
Kind of, well, yeah, in a different way, but yeah.
Do you believe poetry can change the world?
I think art can change the world, and poets are spectacular, fantastic, dazzling individuals, and I know so many of them, and I love them dearly. And they are energy forces in the universe that can actually move mountains, that we can actually use art to feed people's souls in a way that they will be transformed, and then we make the world better. And absolutely, I think it can change the world. I think it can change lives. I think it can save people. And I think art is a necessary tool, weapon, survival kit that everybody needs in their homes, in schools, in institutions and corporations. All need art in order for this world to become better.
I think art can change the world if you wanted to. Like, if you try hard enough for it to reach people, then you can. People could probably relate to what you say more than you expect.
What's one thing you'd like to change?
I don't know, people's perspectives. I don't know.
Do you know?
I cannot.
Yes, you can.
Wow.
Oh, this is like a mommy thing. No. Well, let me just say this. Like during the pandemic, I've been asked as a poet and writer to, like, you know, be a voice, right? So people can have empathy and understanding for what's happening to brown and black people. And they use my poems so they can, because I talk about these things, and that helps bridge understanding because it builds communication. So no, can you think artists can do that with music? You know, like, I mean, artists have done that. Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. You know, we have artists that have used art for social change. Even artists that you know, like Talib Kweli and Dave Chappelle, and different artists that you've been around that have done that. So, is there something? There's not one thing that's happening in the world that maybe, like, how can we? If you could change it.
To remember that art is subjective.
Yeah.
Like, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not art. I guess.
Yeah. That's a whole situation.
I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. So now I'm in the struggle singing, I can't leave. Calling out the violence of these racist police. And we ain't gonna stop till the people are free. We ain't gonna stop till the people are free. We ain't gonna stop till the people are free.
How many poems have you made and which one is your favorite? How does that poem make you feel?
I think. Sorry. It's okay. Why did you?
Keep going.
Why did
keep
you?
going.
Okay.
King, we can hear that.
Nice work.
My favorite poem is the poem he wrote called Like Ali. And I love Like Ali because it's one of his newer poems. It's not in his first book. He wrote it about his experience. He went through, bless you. Should we start it over? Okay.
Do you believe poetry? Do you believe poetry can change the?
Do I believe poetry can change the world?
Do you believe poetry?
What?
I don't know. He's got the giggles. I don't know. Do you believe poetry can change the world? We can just answer the question.
Yo, when I said get B-roll footage, this is not what I meant.